This is Marketing Uncomplicated. Welcome back, everybody. Today I have Neil Twa, who is the CEO and co-founder of Voltage Holdings and co-author of Almost Automated Income with FBA. A former Fortune 500 management consultant with IBM, Neil left corporate life in 2007 to forge his own entrepreneurial path. Since then, he has launched and scaled multiple private label brands on Amazon, generating 8-figure revenues, and has helped over 1,000 entrepreneurs do the same through consulting, coaching, and mentoring. With more than 17 years of experience in e-commerce, Neil has become a leading authority on building profitable, lifestyle-driven Amazon businesses. His company, Voltage, takes a unique skin in the game approach, not just advertising brands, but helping them launch, thrive, and exit. Neil's expertise recently led to a new brand launch that reached 3,000 per day in sales in under 20 days. We're going to get into that, showcasing the power of Voltage methods. Beyond the boardroom, Neil is a top 5% global ranked podcast host, a sought after speaker, and a dedicated mentor passionate about empowering others to design businesses that serve their lives, not the other way around. Welcome to the show, Neil. It's so good to have you.
Well, thank you. That was quite a mouthful. For those of you still listening to the podcast, welcome.
We can end now.
It's gone. We're done. Game over.
Yes. So I want to get into it. You left a
Sure.
Fortune 500 consulting career at
Mhm.
IBM to go out on your own. I mean, it takes a strong individual to do something like this. Honestly, to take a leap of faith, as I like to say.
Yeah.
But it's really kind of inundated and ingrained in that entrepreneurial spirit. But what was that leap for you personality?
We don't always want to change as people just because we're super strong, smart, and we have it all figured out. So I don't want to get any arrogance or pride caught up in this. Really, what happened was a major event that made me decide a path. And in that decision, I guess I was stronger than saying, well, I'm just going to stay in the corporate world and
Yeah.
stay in this position. But honestly, I've been building up to the point where that was really just waiting to happen. I just needed an event to trigger it.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of us have that opportunity, but sometimes out of fear, concern, or worry, or lack of faith, we just don't do it. And then later on, we're kind of like, crap, I missed that turn about 5 miles back. Now, what do I do?
Yeah.
I'm 5 miles down the road with family life and other things. And I'm like, now I'm sort of stuck. I'm sort of ingrained. The family's older, blah, blah, blah. For me, it was just a couple of actual events that piggybacked on each other. One of them was my mentor and friend and uncle, who was more the entrepreneurial spirit, talked about abundance, was building his own company, came from a family of entrepreneurs, and really expanded my mind into what was possible. He ended up dying in an ultralight aircraft accident 2 years before I left IBM. And that was a catalyst to my going, okay, you know what? He pumped this into me. He kept telling me to do my own thing. He was encouraging me to go, and I don't have him here anymore. I'm like, crap. So what ended up happening was a couple of life events. I got married to my wife in March of 2007. And by June, IBM had come back and said, hey, you know what? We decided to move your division to Argentina. We'll move you there if you want to, or you have to take early retirement, or good luck finding something else. You can apply in another part of the company, but you may start out at a lower pay grade, blah, 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 and all this other crap. And I'm like, oh, there's my catalyst.
Yeah.
So I turned to my wife and I'm like, hey, new life, new adventure. What do you think? And she's like, let's go for it. So I took the early retirement and I walked. I burned the boats in my mind. I was like, I'm never going back.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't burn the bridges, which was helpful because I ended up going back on contract a few years later on a mission to save a project that was dying. And they said, come back. I went back as a contractor, not as a W-2.
Fantastic. Yeah, I think what you say in terms of not building bridges just because you walk out, it doesn't necessarily have to be that way. And to your point, once you leave, you already have in that mindset, at least for most entrepreneurs, like I'm gonna make it work. No matter come hell or high water, it's gonna work for me. And I'm not going back, I mean,
Call it blind optimism.
Yeah, totally. But
it really is.
Lots of people thrive in the 9 to 5 and lots of people do amazing work, but some people need to take a step out and really give themselves that challenge.
They need to realize it's an opportunity, that they have that choice, that may not feel like it because money's not near you at this moment, or it doesn't feel abundant, or it doesn't feel like it's something that you have the time, energy, or attention to manage. But at the end of the day, the truth is you're just going to leap and keep walking forward. And really what had happened is a whole other series of opportunities and failures had occurred leading up to that moment there were just larger kind of, forks in the road that were kind of like, hey, here's your last moment, here's your last chance, are you going to figure this out? And having dropped out of college, and then because I didn't want to even go to college in the first place, I wanted to be a fighter pilot, and that didn't work out because I was too tall for the cockpit. So I'm like, well, I'll go to college. And so I went to college, and I didn't really want to be there. So I failed out twice and had to reapply because I frankly didn't learn how to learn. High school was easy for me, and I didn't know how to apply it to college really, and I didn't want to be there. So I was playing music and having fun because part of what I got to school on was a music scholarship and some work study. And then the internet came online. I'm like, yay, change. So I'd always had a pattern of like changing and moving and adapting and just naturally growing and taking risks to apply for another job, or try this in a contract, or ask for a pay raise. There was just a series of things that kept leading me to realizing that I was going to keep progressing forward. So naturally, burning the boats was just a never going back, because I'd never gone back to anything I had done since I got out of high school.
Yeah.
So at that point, it was just continuing to progress forward, right? Even fail forward, as the book says.
I like that mindset, and I'm sure that you talk a lot about mindset, and you probably express it a lot just in terms of that shift. But before we dive into that,
Mm-hmm.
you've scaled and exited brands on the e-commerce space.
Mm-hmm.
What does the entrepreneurship truly mean to you today?
Yeah, the success mindset is becoming easier to identify. It was a little harder to identify in the past because certain conditions of the world, culture, businesses, corporations, startup, just billions and billions of dollars flowing into these areas and stuff was kind of confusing as to who's a real startup, who has the real aptitude, who has the real tenacity as an entrepreneur to become a business person. And I think we're starting to see that separation become a little easier to identify these days, right?
Mm-hmm.
It is in the pattern of the success mindset, the idea that a lot of the successful people I know don't subscribe to that hustle and grind. They don't subscribe to that, fake it till you make it. They don't subscribe to this false narrative of a social media profile that has to identify them in some way. In fact, they're the ones that get the least amount of videos, least amount of views. They don't usually post on social media. They're like the people you don't know, really.
Yeah.
You don't hear about them so much. They're that middle ingrained area. We have a lot of people that down here that post, and then we got the really high end up here, like Elon and stuff, cracking it up on X every day. And then there's the people in the middle who are just really good at what they do, who are working and very successful, and you don't hear about them,
Yeah.
or they don't get any views on their YouTube videos.
Yeah.
And it's because they're just really good at hustling and in the grind of the business, but they're not doing it in their life. They're not really translating that into something that is beyond their family, or the way they want to live their life, or the way they designed their life. And that is something that it took me the first 5, 6, 7 years of my entrepreneurial journey to break down, get past that thinking that somehow my efforts could really atone for all of my success. Right. And I realize that now as being vain. Right. And the root of that is vanity. And we don't acknowledge that, I think, enough in ourselves to support others, to help others, to put purpose and value above profits. And that took me quite a long time to get out of that mindset so that I could start shifting my focus towards what is the purpose and value of who I'm working with and what I'm doing, what makes that successful, not just me.
Yeah.
And then I had a breaking moment. Surprise, I went bankrupt in the process of learning that. And when I see some of my more successful friends having such large problems to deal with too, you see the pattern of that tenacious, blind, optimistic entrepreneur inside of that business owner or business that's really making the whole thing go.
Yeah.
And these are the people that just jump off a bridge and build it on the way down. Like, it seems like it's chaotic. It seems like it's disorganized. It's like, that pile of paper over here, that's my organization structure. Don't mess with that. Like, that makes sense to me. And for a lot of people who've been kind of ingrained in this mindset of, structure and 40 hours and reports and doing, it feels very chaotic to them. But for the entrepreneur, it's the chaotic calmness that they need in order to power that constant creativity and pushing and pushing and pushing,
Mm-hmm.
and that risking and risking. And I often joke that most people wouldn't understand this. You probably get it, but have you really ever tried to be a business owner until you put your entire payroll on a credit card?
Yeah.
Right? I mean, have you really tried to risk it all? I
Yeah.
have no regrets for the risks that I've taken in business and the financial positive and negative impacts.
Yeah.
I don't regret learning those lessons. I have wisdom from that now I would not have gained without the negative experience and the positive experience to see the boundaries, to see the difference, to understand where I fit in it, how to fit others in it, pull my vanity and pride out of it, push other people as an opportunity to move them from a C to a B to an A player and get them in a position that's very good for them and make it a lot less about me.
Yeah, yeah. That's wonderful. Just listening to you, there's something that I've been thinking about, and it's not a risk. It's just something, I think because in the beginning of your business, you invest a lot back in.
Yes.
And I'm like shy of 4 years, and it's the continuation of I'm still investing, I'm making, but it's going back in, right?
Yeah.
Uh, and I was thinking about something, and just what you said a minute ago, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna do it. So thank you for that.
Hmm. Oh,
So,
you're welcome. What are we doing?
E- well, it's a trip that I want to take,
Okay.
that is an investment in terms of, but it's business development, and it's networking, and it's being around people that could potentially introduce me to others. And there's a lot of life things we give ourselves excuses, right? So it's a standpoint of, well, I'm going to be gone for 2 weeks, and I got my dogs to worry about, then I got my family, and I got this, and so on and so forth. We start to put everybody else in front of us before we put ourselves and what we want in terms of how we want to grow the business and where we want to take it, right? So I think that just listening to you say, I don't regret any of the risks I've taken. Obviously, some of the things that you've done, and some of the things that I've done have been bigger than just this. But, I feel like I am moving in a certain direction that is, I'm peaking at a point whereby, there's decisions that we want to make. There's decisions that are nice to have versus should we really do this? And
Yeah.
so, yeah.
And acquiescing in that, I mean, if you have an opportunity to be in a network of the five people in business you're trying to be in business like,
Yeah.
and you want to amplify or be a part of that, you want to follow that mindset, you want to understand what they're doing, and just by either being able to be in their presence or getting them to help you or even paying them to be in their network can
Sure.
empower that next level of growth. That's a risk you should take, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's an educated risk. The goal there then is the possibility that you might fail at the social connection to that, where nothing really feels like it clicks or something doesn't happen. Therefore, the whole trip is a failure. And if you can stop thinking about that from the very beginning,
Yeah.
then you understand your success in that is getting there and then relaxing and letting yourself just be natural in that environment and not try to force any conversations or force anything that might be business development related. That's a tough thing for people in sales and business to understand, because blood in the water is, as they say, right? The sharks smell it, and if anybody smells somebody around whose sole interest is to just sell them on something, people are pretty smart nowadays. Their intuition starts to kick in. But that's that, what we call that risk reward ratio, right? Do I
Yep.
do this thing? Will there be a reward? And I think you have to think in terms of, what risk level am I willing to take for what reward level am I willing to get?
Yep.
Right? If I'm willing to risk $1,000, I shouldn't be expecting to make seven figures. If I'm willing to risk 10,000, it's possible I could make six figures. If I'm willing to spend, six figures, there's a good chance I can make a seven-figure business. We have to stop thinking about the limitations of our current place where we stand and realize those are only limitations that are self-imposed, because out of opportunity, there's abundance for everything and there is money everywhere. It just
Yep.
maybe not is near you right now. So our goal is to figure out where do we fit, in that process. This is something I tell people a lot in my mentoring. You have to remember sales fixes everything, but you can't be a sleazy salesperson. Okay. And you can't operate out of desperation.
Sure.
So how does
Desperation is so key.
it's so key, right? And it
Yeah.
really gets into the way that you think that the conversation should always lead for every person to a sale.
Yeah. Yeah.
Kill that idea from the very beginning.
Yeah.
Every relationship conversation should lead to a relationship.
Yeah.
The
Because
byproduct of any of that opportunity, the purpose, and the what we call the profit beyond financial, which would be a profit of relationship, a profit of network, a profit of connectivity, a profit of like-mindedness. Oh, hey, we think a lot alike. That's kind of cool. I don't get to never, have that kind of connectivity with a lot of people because XYZ or ABC. And a little of that conversation I think we had in the green room before this. But
yeah.
you start to feel that connectivity and you realize, okay, there's networking in that, there's opportunity in that, and really I'm not going to see this person as an object of that opportunity. I'm going to see them for the profit of the relationship. If should anything come out of that that becomes financial profit,
Yeah.
then that is just the purpose and value equaling the profit of finance beyond the other profit of relationship and connectivity. And I think if we can see people like that, we might see people more like our neighbors. We might not get as mad as that person on the road because they, swerved a little and maybe they were doing something and we're so angry we want them to die, right? Like,
Yeah.
just crash in the road and die. Like, we get really angry with people these days, and we don't see them as people. We see them as objects, and it's a very dangerous situation to be in a mindset. And I think it's one of the things that, I had to get past as I sold my business and learned how to become more of a business owner who leads the charge and, leads the business and leads the opportunities. This conscious competence will come through when you give it a pathway to get there, right? And I think that's a tough thing. And as we're developing products and brands in the physical and e-commerce space, it's a slightly different way than I had to do with business development before, when I was in the management and consulting and lead generation stuff. When we moved into the branding world, branding is leading, B2C customers into a belief and emotional connectivity with the brand that has them fulfilled by the product's outcome, whatever it is: run faster, jump higher, make ice cream, do a nice espresso, whatever it is that the outcome is. It is the purpose of that product to solve those opportunities, those things, those needs, those gains, those losses. And that person gets connected to the brand. And so it's a very different way of having learned to sell brand to people by the use of products, so that that brand lives on forever, even if the product doesn't. And
Yeah.
that is a something I kind of fell into about 12 years ago, and frankly just fell in love with it because I kind of discovered the thing that I really understand end to end. I got the digital thing down for a while. I was doing digital and market and affiliation and was doing really well with that. And I didn't have a product. I mean, digital is a product to some degree, you know what I mean? But like the physical product, actual products we use every day.
Mhm.
When I made that connection to the digital world and I put those two things together, for me, it just clicked. Like, this is obvious. I can put money into inventory. Inventory has value. I sell it. I send more inventory. That value grows. Like, I get this business model. Like, I completely understand it. And for me, that's when I turned from an entrepreneur into a business owner.
I love it. There was so much to break down. So thank you for that richness. Honestly, it was fantastic, Neil, in terms of how you really walked us through where you were in your enterprise experience all the way down to entrepreneurship. And I do love that you say, when you made that connection, when you made that click. And I think a lot of the times marketers tend to really get stuck in this hamster wheel of what marketing is versus what marketing could be, and really
Yeah.
stepping
So,
outside of the box of really utilizing, because as marketers, even if you're working on, if you're not working on the creative side necessarily, like branding and design and so on and so forth, but you're more on the technical side and more on the analytical side, it doesn't mean
yeah.
that you can't be creative in terms of the way you do things differently, the way
Yeah.
you squeeze every dollar to maximize its outreach, and a lot of that needs to take place, because it isn't just your general Facebook ads. It isn't just your general SEM ads and so on and so forth. That's the only capacity for you to grow and expand. But how you work that engine and how
Yeah.
you build that engine and make that connection it's mind blowing. I do want to dive into all of that. So you've been building business for over 17 years, online and offline.
Hmm.
Looking back in terms of what was the turning point when you realized I'm not going back to corporate, but in the sense of when that moment in time, also like how we talked about how you're not going back to corporate, but now when in that time where that clicked for you, where you understood exactly that method that was really going to be that, I don't even want to say framework, but it is in essence a framework that you can utilize consistently, and it can change just ever so slightly based on that
Yeah.
particular product or service that you're offering for that business.
So I
So
call
talk
it
to
now
us
the
a little
two
bit about
millimeter
that.
shift, right? When
Yeah.
I was an amateur in business, I thought I had to try very different things, and sort of ended up in a place where I could connect the physical product world to the digital world through that mechanism, because I'm kind of pig stubborn. And remember, I was public schooled and dropped out of college, so take it for what it's
Yeah.
worth. I don't
Yeah.
learn very well at times. I have to do a lot of things to figure it out. And so as I learned to fail with these things or to get successful, and it started
You're
to,
practical. You're getting the experience
well,
in the real
experience
world.
is very important to me,
Yeah.
apparently,
Yeah.
both positive and negative. It shapes and has shaped my boundaries. But There's probably easier ways to avoid some of that pain. But I also know that people who spend all their time avoiding pain run into a lot of problems, right?
Yeah, but I think a lot of entrepreneurs experience that because every time we put ourselves in a situation, we have to remind ourselves, I put myself here. So you're going to get through it and you're going to move through it,
You
right?
have to take that because in the morning you'll have a high and it's really great and things are looking up. And by the afternoon it's crashing and you're rethinking your life and you're having a drink going, what the hell am I doing here?
Yeah.
And then the next day you do it again, right? And that's
Yeah.
not something a lot of people's minds can overcome. And if it's
Yeah.
too volatile in that way, a lot of people will just simply give up and want to go backwards because it feels easier, feels more comfortable, feels less stressful. You have to figure out a way to put yourself in that position. For me, when we started to get into the physical product world, we started flipping products for profit. I knew that's what we were doing, but I was trying to figure out the sales engine because we have to remember marketing is just an activity of sales. It's not a guarantee of sales. So through every activity of marketing, we're trying to define how to speak to an audience, what they want from us, how we can give them more of it. And so we just started flipping some products. We started on Amazon because the infrastructure was easier to use. I didn't have to ship the products. Amazon did.
Yeah.
So on like an eBay or whatever in a packaging business, which actually my 13-year-old has a little eBay business she's running, and she sells stuff, she finds stuff to buy and sell, and right now she's found some Halloween stuff that sold really crazy. She listed it yesterday. It sold like in one day.
Wow, I love
And
it.
so she's like super JoJo'd up because she's making some good profits on her finds, and that's fun. But you have to ship it, right? You have to move it out. With Amazon, their whole infrastructure does that for me. So as we started to figure that out, in 2012 and 13, we kind of discovered that yeah, flipping products was one way. That's a retail arbitrage, online arbitrage kind of thing. But really, my partner and I, who had met through a mutual connection, had a 1 hour conversation and realized, hey, we got two different brains, but we can make like one person if we work together, and kind of started that process. We realized we needed to create a business. We just weren't sure how the flipping of products would turn into that. And literally, I was up one night with my third daughter, Lily, and my wife was super tired because we have 4 kids in 4 years. So I'm a night owl. She falls asleep at 9 and 10. She's like worn out, but I can stay up to like 2 to 3. So I took the night shift. She, took the early morning shift. And so I'm at like 4 in the morning giving a bottle to my daughter, and it pops this infomercial for this product. And I'm clicking through it, and I've got little kids. So I'm like, yeah, maybe I'll buy this. It's like this seat pet thing, and they put their head on it and super cute or whatever. So I go to sleep. I wake up the next morning. I'm like, dummy, you could make one of those. Like, why can't you make one of those? So I called my partner and I told him what was going on. He's like, let me do some research. And he came back and he said, hey, you know what? We can make an anime face version of this, and we can probably get some made, in the US, maybe India, maybe China. We'll find out where we can get it made or whatever. And I said, yeah, let's go do this. And so we developed this brand called Belt Buddies, which was just the competitive brand to something I saw on the infomercial. And they weren't doing a great job on Amazon. So we said, hey, let's try it out. We took iPhone pictures of some kids from the neighborhood holding it and using it in the car. They weren't super great. We built what we felt was a compelling listing of differentiation in the conversation.
Yeah.
And what we discovered when we did a Hail Mary pass on 2,000 units, which I don't recommend you do right out of the gate unless you're super awesome, but we took a Hail Mary pass on that, and we sold out of those 2,000 units in less than 8 weeks. We were like, what just happened? And so we ordered more, and that started to sell out. And that's when our first brand sort of took off. That expanded into a number of product lines, and we hit another product type in the same methodology, what we then called our as seen on TV strategy. Of finding the products that were already in demand that just didn't have a really great competitor. So like this competitor, was doing a great job on the infomercial. They had no real Amazon presence. And so we built an Amazon presence to capture the demand that was flowing in that wasn't being purchased of their product, but found our product instead. And so we started that process of looking for more of those products and looking for the data. And pretty soon we had this process of like 49 data points in a spreadsheet to identify these products. And conditionally, we learned how to find more of them. Then we launched more. And by 2015, we hit our first 7 figures in sales. And that moment in time, that's first 7 figures, is so hard to get to. Yeah. And once we hit that, a lot of things changed. Just a lot of experience and understanding the wisdom of getting there, the supply chain, the building, the demand, the systems themselves and how they were working, and how our product would respond in a marketplace compared to the existing ones. How could we compete if they already had 1,000 reviews and we didn't? Like, how do we get into this market share? And we really identified some very fascinating things that kind of created a structure of business, a repeatable structure that we were able to launch again and again, and got successful. And of course, a lot of people, friends and family around us are like, before they're like, hey, you're a liability. And now they're like, hey, how are you doing this?
Yeah.
So we started to talk to them, and I started helping a lot of people for free. to kind of get success. And they started to use the process and started to have success with it. And we're like, hey, we're really onto something. And about 2016 and 17, we had helped a number of people launch some very successful brands that even expanded our realization of how big and how fast the engine could go. One of those was launched in 2015 from a guy who I just coached one-on-one for 4 months to help him understand what we did and do it in a product series. And he was already a 9-figure earner and really understood how to deploy capital in business at a big, large level. And he managed to pull that brand to 5 million a month in 8 months. So we were like,
Wow.
holy
Wow.
crap, this engine is way larger and bigger than we even expected. And we just focused on it. We just doubled down on the growth of that business and additional businesses. Since then, we now have 24 under management control that we own and control and run every day, week, and month. So we are, in the business of doing the business. And then I've coached about 300 people along with my partner and my team since 2019, and had some very successful client relationships, some very successful brands, and even new launches, as you had alluded to. The one you mentioned earlier is now about 7,000 a day. It's just hit the top
The
sales.
3,001 to 7,000.
Yeah, and it's now Amazon picked it up last week, called us up and said, "Hey, we really want to help you
Yeah.
with this brand. You're on our radar now. We're going to get our
Yeah.
growth team involved, so they're going to help us push that out." We
Yeah.
have 2 other launches, now doing 2,000 to 4,000 a day on each of those products, as we're kind of still in the build phase of
Yeah.
optimization. And we got like 3 or 4 more products we're launching before we get into the holidays this year,
That's
to really see
fantastic.
them slingshot through the end of next year.
So, thank you for that. I want
Mhm.
to dive into the 3,000, which is now 7,000 a day.
Yeah,
What can you tell us without obviously giving away the secret sauce in terms of what
sure.
that playbook looks like
Well, I can tell you what it is because I'd love to
acceleration?
let people
Okay.
know because it's one of my favorite products. We talked a little bit about holistic wealth and lifestyle and stuff
Yes.
earlier. So one of the things that's difficult for us is finding clean ice cream, right? Because we're a
Hmm.
dairy-free, gluten-free, dye-free family due to medical issues, and so we try to keep people very detoxed, and dairy doesn't work. So we've tried all kinds of coconut milk and other things, and different types of coconut milk and stuff, and we finally landed on a number of recipes that do well for us, but they're kind of complicated, hard to make. You got to pre-freeze and wait and get all this stuff done, and so it's a pretty big labor of love to get ice cream. And so what we did was we just made a machine that could do it. It's called the Blizzy, and it is a ice cream machine that does not require pre-freezing. You can make it in less than in 30 minutes, 25 minutes on average. You can make a protein ice cream, a coconut-based ice cream, a sugar-based ice cream, sugar-free, excuse me. You can make regular dairy ice cream, and then you just pull the handle, and in less than 30 minutes, out comes soft serve. And it is kind of raging now on people, and they're loving it. The reviews are rolling in, and that has kind of helped launch that process into Amazon's engine, which is just now a big AI engine
Yeah.
that's looking for people who love ice cream and says, "Hey, what about the Blizzy?" And it's doing extremely well now on that launch, and organically growing very fast into the marketplace. And it was just something that we wanted to do for our family, and found somebody who wanted to work with us and found a manufacturer and put together a unique product type. Going to have exclusivity at the manufacturing. It's a trademark IP based brand. And we have additional innovations coming. And since that was so successful, we're now launching a slushy machine that's
I
coming
love
out
it.
here very shortly. Yeah,
Yeah.
slushies. We
Yeah.
love those. And we've targeted a
Team
couple of,
slushies.
yeah, right. Love the slushies. We got a
Yeah.
very cool, unique slushy machine that's coming to compete. They're innovative products. We did not invent them. I know a lot of people think that inventions is the way to become Elon Musk, and in some ways it is, but that's very unique. That's less than like half of 1% of the population. The rest of us, the 99%, look for ways to innovate existing products with existing demand so that we can meet a market opportunity that creates
Yeah.
differentiation.
Yeah.
For the Blizzy, it's a pre-freezing problem with a lot of ice cream makers, and we solve that problem. It doesn't take any pre-freezing. You just mix it up, pour it in, and go. And that unique situation, that innovation, is really creating a kind of a splash. And we do that kind of unique thing for each of the product types that we launch because there's an existing demand, and there are target brands we're after, like Breville in the coffee space, and we're after Ninja in another way. And we just don't see, we see like 1 to 2 kind of tier competitors, but there's not a third. And there's always an opportunity for the third to become the second. And
Hmm.
then the second, you can make millions a year and create really killer brands that might eventually, like NASCAR, slingshot your way around to the lead in time. And these are, 3, 5 year business plans. And to be very clear, every capital dollar deployed and every profit made in year one gets deployed back to the business so that in year two, we're into growth mode. And in growth, obviously, comes profitability to deploy and capitalize greater so that by year 3 through 5, we're in scale, right? And scale for us means minimum $5 million a year in sales, 1 million in EBITDA. The brand now becomes a saleable asset. It's very important we understand this. Building the business to the end, to the exit, is the business model. It is like one of the better kept secrets of this opportunity, because as we deploy and pull that cash back, these businesses become 2, 4, 6, 8 times worth their profit when you exit. And we can repeat that process, because I got thousands of product pipeline ideas that match our buy box criteria now, that are more than I can do in a lifetime. And we're just stacking them up brand by brand, product by product, because it's that intrinsic brand and the multiple products that support that brand that really create a very good saleable asset. Even generational wealth. I have a student who's exiting right now, and 5 years later, sub $30 million exit. That's a generational wealth move for him.
Yeah, for sure. In the aspect of, other than mix it up, pour it in, and there you go with the Blizzy,
Mm-hmm.
what was the tipping point for the acceleration of the sales? Was it messaging? Was it the positioning? What was that nut that you cracked to really
So
slingshot
I
it,
would
as you
love to
say?
say that we did it all, but here's something that is misunderstood about
Yes.
today's entrepreneurial online environment. Everything is run by just-in-time algos now. Okay, that is audiences in which these algos have terabytes, petabytes, zettabytes. What's above that? Google megabytes. I don't know the anything goes. But there's so much data now powering these engines that have an intent and understanding of all the information we've ever given it about ourselves online, Facebook, and everything. Amazon sales and all the data they pulled together to have very strong marketing audience intersect engines built into those large language models, now moving into agentic AI shopping, where it knows so much about you that it will suggest the best customer need, best intent product for you. And then if you want it, it'll go buy it for you. So these agents are becoming like your personal shoppers based on your entire history, and these algos are all powering that. So when you understand what they want, how they want to see it, and how your listing images, copy, and information prompt those engines to understand who exactly your customer avatar is, who wants the primary benefits of this product for their life to make it easier, simpler, faster, whatever, and that engine really understands what you're doing, then you just let it go. It becomes your marketing engine. I don't have to force it. We call it priming the engine, which is how we do 80% of the due diligence before we launch a product. And the 20% we're looking for in our market test, okay, is just to determine how close to the engine's understanding are we based on impressions, sales, clicks, interactions, reviews, and other signals that the engine is giving us that we nailed it. Not only does it understand it, but it's meeting the expected target audience of 15 million people a year on Amazon who want an ice cream machine. And with that, we are now coming into an alignment that this engine, which its entire job is to get something in front of somebody in 30 seconds or less and get them to buy it because they didn't know they needed it. And when they see it, they're like, holy crap, I need that. And do its job for me. And when it sends those social signals and does that, and you become in alignment, we start to overtake market share inside of the engine that allows us to go from 3 to 4 to 5,000 a day, because it is now showing us exponentially more to more of that audience as it sees that our product is becoming more in demand. And as it's more in demand, it's doing the marketing for us. Okay. Now we may add on marketing ads called Amazon PPC ads to kind of continue to expand its visibility to that audience intersect. And as we convert people, it simply learns more and more and more about the people that want that product. So then it gets better and better and better at showing it to more of that audience compared to other products. So we're now overtaking their market share.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So one of the ways we do that is we price products at a retail price point that makes us enough profit that we expect that based on our research, we know roughly 2, 3, 4 manufacturers what they're going to charge us for each of the cost of goods of that product. So we now have an understanding of sort of an average market product price in comparison to our competitor. How is that an advantage? Well, if I know that that is an average of cost of goods and the current retail price is up here, and I know my cost of goods is lower than 35% target, And I believe that I have a better marketing position, which gives me greater profitability per each unit sold. If I know I'm 5, 10, even $15 greater in profit than them, what can I do that they cannot?
Absolutely. Yeah.
I can buy
Um,
more customers.
yeah. And it's wild. Like when you talk about the PPC for Amazon, I'm almost like, why hasn't Facebook cracked this nut? Because they demand so much in terms of spend more, spend more, spend more, but their algorithm is not supporting the return on investment
Here's
for
what's
the
tricky about that, because I've actually
yeah,
tested ads for these products during launch on Meta ads
yeah,
directly to Amazon using what are called brand referral links. And these brand
yeah,
referral links, you always want to use those because what happens is Amazon charges you a referral fee to be on their platform. Okay.
yeah,
People argue about Amazon fees, but here's the deal. If you go run traffic on Meta, you're going to have fees.
yeah,
CPM is a fee in a lot of ways equal to my PPC and Amazon referral fee costs. And a lot of times I can even get that lower than what a CPM cost would be for that product if I were to direct market it. And a lot of people either don't want to hear that, don't understand it, or maybe don't think I'm telling the truth, but it's still the truth. So even if I'm paying Amazon a platform and referral or what's called an FBA fee and referral fee, that equatable to 30 to 40% of a cost of sale on the Amazon platform to access their 200 million customers and very intelligent AI engine is really no different when you run the cost of goods on a direct to consumer Facebook marketing campaign, especially not today with CPMs the way they are,
yeah,
right? So people argue about that. And I'm like, but I get organic traffic and you don't. When you shut off your Facebook ads, it stops. So unless you have an SEO strategy or whatever, it's dead in
yeah,
the water. For
yeah, yeah,
me, I have an organic ranking engine on that platform also tied to my pay-per-click marketing. So if my organic engine can validate my average cost and customer cost per year above my competitor, that organic engine is going to intentionally pull me up until I'm 60 or 70% of my sales organically, and only 30, 40% of those sales are on PPC marketing. And when I dial that in, I could even get my what's called total advertising cost of sales, the balance between the organic and paid, down to like 15%, which is my target. I've also discovered in 1,000 product launches that within Amazon's PPC and ranking engine, when you hit a consistent 15% tacos on yours, that unlocks a component within their algorithm engine. They're looking for you to do that. When
yeah,
you
yeah.
do that,
Because
it
it profits them.
it's sending signals to that ranking engine that you are a priority that people want, and then it will
Yeah,
push you out more. And then, like I mentioned earlier, what happens? You get on the radar
yeah.
of the Amazon growth team.
Is that what where it says Amazon preferred? You know that little badge?
You get little
Yeah,
badges, right? You know, the Holy Grail is considered the best seller, but in the product price points I
yeah,
sell at, best sellers are very difficult to get to because they're typically a higher revenue, lower profit
sure.
product. That's how they hit the bestseller badge. So that's not an
Yeah.
accolade in my book I'm looking for. But when it ends up being like Amazon Choice, when it ends up being
Yes.
a bestseller in the node, which is like way down inside of Amazon's filing system, there's this whole thing called a node, which is where brand to brands actually competes. So if I'm targeting Ninja and Breville, that's where they're competing. I want to be competing with them at that node. There is a top 100 ranking for that node. And as I get closer to that bestseller badge, now we're actually talking. Now we're actually really hyper dialed in to people who love ice cream and want an ice cream maker. And my entire brand from the top down is like a giant funnel that only pulls them straight into every kind of ice cream maker type and variation we're going to create that serves the majority of that market opportunity. If they
Yeah,
came in and
that's
found the white one, but
fantastic.
decided they wanted the pink one, we're going to have that one. If they wanted the 2 quart, we're going to have that one. If they wanted this version, we're going to get down to the retail style brand where we'll end up with 10, 20, 50, 100 SKU variations,
Yeah.
hyper optimized to target 15 million buyers a year.
Yeah, yeah. It's
And that's
fantastic.
when these things really start to take off all the way down. It's just like a giant funnel, and people don't
Yeah.
quite understand that. And there's cost to that, of course. But then again, the net profit target for us is always a minimum of 20% net profit in the business. That's our profit and loss for that brand. If a product does not serve that need, the sunk cost fallacy, if it is not serving a need or meeting a result, we let the product go because products have a life cycle.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
the product is not what it's about. The product fulfills the agreement. I have to keep telling people this. We broker data to AI engines. That's what we do now. That's what's different than 12 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're not creating products that are so innovative. We have to go, create knowledge and information and like, what is this and why is this beneficial or whatever. People have already kind of discovered that. Our job is to get the AI engine to make sure that it understands that, because when it starts talking to other platforms, like ranking on Amazon is also ranking on Google.
You're
So
right.
if it understands that, then I can also go to YouTube and say, well, here's my target customer need intent. And then YouTube will figure that out because it's on Google and Amazon. And all these systems play with each other,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And as that goes out and visibly goes, I start ranking across these other platforms. Eventually, we'll put a TikTok shop on. We eventually put a Shopify store up. And if necessary or opportunity wise, we may end up in retail. We've got a very large brand now that does in 4 large retailers, does very well, and it creates a halo effect. So it ends up back on Amazon, it ends up on TikTok. That halo effect is something we shoot for. It is also an increase in the multipliers of the business exit, right? We
Yeah.
can take a Amazon channel maybe to 3.5, depending upon its profitability and market share. But if I add on a Shopify and a TikTok, I could get that to 6 to 8. If I have a retail, I could end up at 10x to 15x with subscriptions and retail base. So
Yeah.
now you're talking about an entire holistic e-commerce. I just choose to start on Amazon for those who are listening first, because it's a great place to incubate a brand. It's 49% of the market share. People go there to buy. There's so much
That's true.
automation in
They
that.
already have that intent in
Oh, there were
place.
200 million people there to buy all the time. It's all they do.
Yeah.
They spend an average order of $69 per buyer, and they spend over $1,800 a year per person.
Yeah.
So yeah, my house, easy. We get stuff 3 to 4 times a week. I would jokingly say that if my wife doesn't order something in 45 minutes, Amazon calls and is like, Mrs. Twa, are you okay?
Yeah.
We haven't got an order from you in 45 minutes. Are you all right?
Yeah.
This system is an amazing operation. It's a miracle it even works with planes, trains, and automobiles, but it
Yeah.
creates a lot of automation, right?
That's
It
true.
creates a
That's true.
lot
And
of
it's going to
automation.
get even crazier now with AI, you know?
Yeah, and the speed by
Yeah.
which it's turning is increasing
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
dramatically. And even negatives, like some people are like, well, Neil, what about tariffs? Well, yeah, tariffs have impacted a lot of businesses. In fact, 30% of just Amazon sellers in that one channel have fallen out due to tariff issues. They were not the strongest businesses. They were not the strongest products. They were not ran in the strongest management, and they failed out of the business.
Yeah.
That has left an opportunity for those who have the stronger management, the stronger processes, and the
That's so
better
right.
capitalization, who are still in there, are now owning that market share.
Yeah.
We saw tremendous jumps in products market share because people just fell out of the market, and because we're able to serve it, we're meeting that market share. And the 5.2 billion impressions a month is not going down.
Yeah.
It's not slowing down, folks. I know you might think
It's
it is,
not.
but it is not slowing down.
No.
And we're looking at potential record sales in this fourth quarter, greater than we've seen in the last 5 years. Two reasons, right? Mobile overtook desktop purchases. I know I'm dumping a lot. You can stop me
No,
anytime.
I love it.
Okay.
It's such a wealth of, I mean, this is like a crash course in the back end of
Well,
Amazon's.
I'm hoping that people really listen to this and understand the whole model for its pros and its cons, because I think we hear a
Absolutely.
lot of myths on the internet about a lot of hopium people who got caught up
Yes.
in courses and programs and gimmicks and scams and think that nothing's real and this doesn't really work and yada yada yada. And I just want
I
somebody to hear me
agree.
today that these are real businesses, like real retail, real stores. You buy real products online. You've bought from other merchants. This is a real business model.
Yeah.
It's the second oldest business model in the world behind prostitution, which I'm not good at. And
Yeah.
that is, physical products, selling products, right? Selling the
Yeah.
physical product. That is not a new thing. This is just a technological aspect. And with that, with the mobile phones overtaking desktop during the COVID, like that was a major shift in the internet.
For
Not a lot
sure.
of people recognize how powerful and big that was. We saw 10 years of hyper growth in the
Right.
first, 3 months of 2020 with the
And
mobile.
Asia has done a lot of that in terms of, I
Uh,
mean, yeah.
yeah, a lot of
And
the
that was
older.
already big pre-COVID for them,
Well, they
you
got
know?
systems that
So,
are much greater than ours. They've had 5G
yes.
longer than we ever had. They've had,
Yes.
speed and connectivity to mobile as a primary factor of their connection long before America
Yes.
caught up with
Yes.
that. And a lot of our older generation who didn't want to get online, like my parents, were
Yeah.
forced to get on Amazon and start buying.
Yeah.
And they didn't want to before, and they held back, and then they all got online. And since their
And it's a
generation of,
piece of cake for
yeah,
them now.
they got the money too,
Yeah.
so they were wanting to spend on things. They're like, oh, all of a sudden, Amazon shows up at my door. This is actually really convenient,
Sometimes
especially.
same day, sometimes within the hour.
And I have to get in the car and get my walker. It's older. I hurt and I ache, and I have to go to Walmart, and I'm kind of don't want to do that stuff. And there's just a lot of reasons they don't feel comfortable with it. And my parents have said that a lot. But once they got into the ordering, they're like, okay, we get it. So that changed, quite a bit of that movement. And as we pointed out earlier, and I think a lot of people understand the concept of AI in some way, shape, or form. Maybe they're not using it. Maybe they're applying it. Maybe they got, their job lost
Yeah.
because of AI. That system of speed and implementation of the knowledge of those systems, pushing and disseminating information, now means that like the GPT models are where most people are moving very fast into shopping mode. Like 30% increases in buyer conversions through GPTs for the platforms.
Yeah.
And with agentic AI shopping coming out, agentic commerce protocol, AOP, ACP, excuse me, this is going to be a big move where the GPTs are now connecting into TikTok, Shopify, and Etsy. This just literally happened the other day. Pretty soon it's
That's
going to be
gonna
Amazon.
fly. Yeah.
It's moving at the rapid. All you need to understand is either as a consumer, that's how you're going to end up buying products in the future, or as a producer, which I prefer you would be if you want to think about building a business and changing and getting out of the consumerism space and into the production space. Huge opportunities, something greater than I haven't seen since 2013. And it's happening really in the next 24 months or less due to the speed of the implementation of these systems, all the way from top down in businesses with efficiencies. We use it at the micro level over and over to compress time on everything from images and graphics and even videos. My 17-year-old over here, she is now has like 4 clients in our accounts and in our businesses where she's been training and learning and building AI videos for our brand ads, getting very good at it. So we're putting additional clients on her as she continues to
That's
go.
fantastic.
It's amazing to watch. She absolutely loves the creativity. She's been
Of
using the different
course.
systems, the Nano Banana, the O3. We were playing with Soro 2 yesterday and really learning how to build compelling marketing branded videos, which the team operations are using. And the movement by which the money is coming. There are trillions of dollars committed and being deployed into manufacturing and stuff in America that in the next 24 months or less are going to really
Yeah.
change more, I think, than people at this point can comprehend.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. Such a wealth of information to digest and to really learn from. So thank you for that. I do want to dive into your book a little
Sure.
bit. Your book is called Almost Automated
Mhm.
Income with FBA. So before we dive into that, part one of my question is to break down, you know, what Amazon FBA really is,
Mhm.
beyond the hype, and my second part is what does almost automated really mean in terms of the
Mhm.
title of the book, and what part will never be automated.
Well, I would be a liar if I said it was passive, right? And I think a lot of people want to hear that because of the situation by which they'd like to change their life with somebody else doing it for them,
Yeah.
which doesn't really work that way, guys. You can work your way in. So I called it almost automated income. And that is because there are the work we have to do, the energy and attention we put into finding, developing, manufacturing, testing, and validating the products and validating the engine response and validating the marketing. And that's an effort to get that product into the market. It can be rewarded really well when you do it the right way. The systems, like we talked about, can reward you by greater market share and work for you, and they'll want to help push it out.
Hmm.
The thing about it is, I don't need 10 warehouses and 20 employees and this entire infrastructure, this economy of scale that can reach 9 figures in these businesses, because Amazon's fulfilled by Amazon infrastructure, the planes, trains, automobiles, warehouses, last mile deliveries that come to your door and my door when we order. I can leverage that to deliver those products, to handle the returns, to handle the customer support and the merchant fulfilling, and a lot of things to support that process I don't have to do. So I can sell products 24/7 while I'm sleeping because they're doing it. And that creates that almost automated income because at my point, once we get this thing going, you don't touch it anymore except to manage the logistics and capitalization pipeline. Once Amazon's dialed in, we don't change the listings very often unless we're going to do some split testing. We don't want to mess with the algorithm because it's doing its thing. So a lot of stuff we do is in the logistics and capital management of the business to ensure that products in the warehouses making its delivery velocity, turning over 4 times a year, very important for cash flow, and the cash on cash value of that return. And that we have product in motion. It's on the water, it's on trains, it's somewhere in to replenish the warehouse, and that we have stuff in the manufacturing that is being finalized, prototyped, tested, and ready to roll to replace the upstream just in time. So a lot of stuff my operators do every day when they're not engaging in a product launch process and validation for growth is watching blinky lights, dashboards, and AI systems that are telling them when to make decisions on product ordering, when to look and adjust media accounts that are being tracked by PPC campaigns and automation softwares. And so our real focus is on that customer, that avatar, that in demand, that high profitability green light process we talk about to
Yeah.
keep feeding those brands more and more products in the system, to keep feeding more and more variations and types and innovations of that product, to find the hero products that kind of make up the entire brand. And they come out of that process. They'll rise to the top in the data. Those end up being the ones that get the greatest capitalization and time management and money. They rise up out of the data. We don't make anything but data-driven decisions now. We have an in-house
Absolutely.
development team. We have a product development platform we created. I think it's one of the first in the industries. It's behind an NDA right now. I haven't even launched it into the world, but I will be doing that soon. And so we're going to use that data to kind of help us continuously make data-driven decisions. It comes from Amazon's data system, so I trust it. I know it. It's exactly what products and keywords and sales volumes and stuff, and I match it with my green light process from the last 12 years we've used to launch all these really great brands. I mean, I'll have this AI-driven analytic system that literally pops out products and says, "Here are your green light products. Here are your yellow. Here are your red." And we just go right through the green light products, match them up with a brand or create a brand, and we test them in the market, and the winners get
Yeah.
to be scaled.
Yeah. Yeah. That's fantastic.
So the book, sorry, I got off on a tangent, but
Yeah.
the book talks all about that
Yeah.
in detail. 15 chapters, 15 different interviews on my High Voltage Business Builders podcast. We're coming up on our 200th episode, so I've been doing this for a while. Those are experts in each of their areas of subject matter expertise, from marketing to finance to research. And I interviewed them and we talked about those things on the podcast. Each chapter builds on my playbook, builds on my strategy, builds on the build to exit aspect of our platinum principle, as we call it, with resources and case studies to support that process for anybody who is interested in understanding how to build a real e-commerce business to exit. It's not a tutorial based, so you're not going to, follow a book that teaches you how to open your LLC. That's not what this is about. It's
Yeah.
understanding that you need one. It's understanding how to structure it correctly for taxation purposes, wealth generation, and wealth management. It teaches you the strategy of business, the fundamentals predominantly of building one of these correctly into an asset, because that is an asset, a saleable asset. It's worth a lot more in the end than at any time during the business building phase.
Yeah. Yeah. That's fantastic. I mean, that's a book anybody could really sink into.
Yeah,
But
we've got some good
one
reviews.
last question, just
Mhm.
based on, I know that I had thrown three questions at you, but digging into a little bit about what FBA is.
Yes, fulfilled by Amazon, right? It's a simple term that just is the explanation of all that infrastructure. What it actually is an independent company that Amazon bought somewhere around 2008, if I'm not mistaken, to get beyond their shipping of books and be able to create an infrastructure to what Jeff Bezos called in one of his reports, sell all things to all people in 30 seconds or less. And that became the infrastructure by which they now sold everything, including now cars. And so that was just a logistics, freight management, and warehouse management company that got snapped on to Amazon to allow that to occur, so he and his team didn't have to ship books anymore, because they were shipping their own books for a while
Yeah.
there. And that created what you now know today. And when the trains go by and you see like 59 Amazon containers on it, or you see all these trucks rolling, that is the last mile delivery of those products to your house that you enjoy as a consumer. We piggyback on that as a third party seller and are able to move our products through that infrastructure. That creates economies of scale. I don't worry about how much inventory or product I can move with that infrastructure. What I concern myself with is the proper management of that product and capitalization to meet market demand and meet the algorithmic demand, so I can see it go. And that's really where the opportunity lies, is in
Yeah.
strong management and capitalization of these businesses. And you do it right, and they can grow really fast.
Yeah. Fantastic. Wow. Neil, this has been super informative,
Well,
super
thank you.
wealthy conversation. I truly appreciate all the detail and the insights to support somebody's at least beginning of their journey to understand, how they navigate this, right?
Yeah.
And really to weed out the noise that's happening, to really understand that if you hit the nail on the head right, you can really make this work for you. So I
Yeah.
really appreciate your time. But before
Well,
we let
thank
you
you.
go, we have something special where we end the conversation, where it's our fireside, questions, where we just ask one word, one myth, and one habit. So whatever comes to mind, uh, just shoot. If
One
you
word.
had to describe the future of e-commerce in one word, what would it be?
Opportunity.
Mhm. I like it. What's the biggest myth about making money on Amazon FBA that you want to bust once and for all?
That it's not profitable. Quickly followed by
What?
there's no more good products.
Yeah,
There
that's
are
true.
millions of good products.
Yeah.
Yep.
What's the daily habit or practice that has kept you consistent in both life and business?
One of the best things I've done for myself in the last 2 years, including my wife, is we have a. It's not a. I'm trying not to make this a long answer. Sorry. Is that we do so many things really well, life, business, and just mindset and tenacity, all this stuff. But we kind of let ourselves slack off a little bit in the physical side. And in April of 2024, we got up one day and said enough. So one of the things we've done to really support all of that is we've been walking 4 miles a day every day since April 2024. I'm down 40 pounds. She's down like 43.
That's wonderful.
So we did take over something in our life that we should have taken over earlier, and do other things great. And that was just one of the areas we slacked off on the fitness side. And that's something that I really hope entrepreneurs won't allow themselves to do at the point we did. And I just decided one day not to do it anymore. And so,
Yeah.
yeah, a healthy morning walk, a good reframing, a timeout, a coping mechanism is very important for the rest of the success of the day.
Absolutely. I mean, mind and body is extremely important to
Yeah.
continue with yourself as an entrepreneur. So
Yeah. And something in faith. That's one of my pillars.
I
Faith,
agree.
family, friends, finances, freedom, and fitness.
I love it.
Those are my F. Yeah, in the faith to get up and remember why you're doing it, for what purpose and glory you're giving to who you're giving it to, and not just ourselves. And faith is a huge component of my success. I give all glory to God and His Son Jesus. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here. I've probably been dead on the side of the road a long time ago.
I love it, Neil. I mean, honestly, you've really provided us with a lot of things that we can take away from today. So I truly appreciate that.
Thank you, Sasha. That's very kind of you.
Thank you so much for your time today.
My pleasure.